and repeat.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
All right, can they hear me now? Just make sure and everything's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. All good. I'm so sorry that you heard that fabulous introduction. My name's Elise, by the way, for those online. I was just about to share a little bit more about the Virtual Advisor Network. And so today's presentation has really been, I've kind of just put, as I did for the IFP Alliance presentation, it's pretty much exactly the same one, but it's kind of like that choose your own adventure. So I've got a buttload of slides here, but we can spend time on wherever is relevant for all of you. So with that, I wanted to give you a bit of an overview, I think, of what is probably the most relevant and a good starting place. But like I said, we don't have to only start here and finish here. We could go wherever. But this is definitely where we start with IFF, is giving you all an opportunity to understand your current state. Now, probably some of you might scoff at that, roll your eyes, go, I know where I am. Of course you do. But do you know where you are from the way that I look at it through research? What your risk growth, risk control profile up is. Caroline's just given you a bit of a handout there. It's quite detailed. I'd love to spend a little bit of time. Do the people online have access to that?
They do. I do circulate that. So
amazing. So that's
like that. It's very small.
It is very small writing. It is very small writing. So yeah, you're going to need a magnifying glass to read it. But that is yours as well. So even if you don't have time or you don't feel like sort of sitting down, because a lot of this sort of stuff that we've designed, they're meant to be, a lot of the tools that I'll show you today are meant to be not easily completed in 2 seconds. They're meant to be tools to actually help you with your creative thinking about what you want your business to look like. Right? So understanding your current state, so where you're at today, understand what makes a successful firm. Again, I think most people really do understand this, but how often do we actually give ourselves the space and the time to talk about it, especially amongst peers that are doing exactly the same thing realistically as what we're doing every day. And I know that that's what a lot of these peer sharing groups are, but a lot of the time you get fabulous speakers, maybe not so fabulous speakers, come and speak at you, where I want to make sure that I give you the opportunity to actually talk amongst each other. And then finally, where are you going to invest your time? Now, this is a really interesting one. So my background's in client research, but it's also in psychology. I don't know how I ended up in financial advice. So I'm in fact, I very much know why I've ended up in financial advice now that I've got a background in psychology. But the human brain actually makes about 35,000 decisions every single day. Now, that's kind of a bit mind-blowing in itself. Most of those decisions are beyond our conscious brain, so like things like breathing and blinking and all that sort of stuff. But you think about how many decisions that you're all making every single day for your business, your clients, for your team. Now, if you don't have an idea about why you're making those decisions, how many of them are actually setting you on the path that you genuinely want to be on? It's kind of a similar analogy would be like saying, I want to go from here to Sydney. If you don't actively make decisions about what vehicle you're going to use, who's going to come on that journey, what stops you're going to make, what mileage you're going to get, what fuel you're going to use, all of these decisions, you'll probably get to Sydney, but I promise you, you'll all get there at different rates, having seen different things, experienced different things, and that's a good thing, absolutely a good thing. But if you're not actively deciding along the way, it's going to just happen for you and to you. And this is what we see a lot of businesses doing. They don't create the space to actively make good decisions. This is called strategy planning. It's hard, not because it's hard work, it's just hard mentally, and we often put it off. But I want to give you some tools and some tips and some tricks and something and things that we've seen and have tailored specifically for wealth management to make it as easy as possible for you. And I want you to pick my brain. I want you to challenge me. I want you to ask me lots of questions. And it doesn't end today. I know we've only got an hour and a half here, which is really not a lot of time to go and cover a lot of these sorts of topics. So I'm really happy to give any of my time to anybody who really wants to spend really delving deep. Now, I know that probably a lot of you have already done a lot of this before. I would absolutely 100% know in my heart that you don't do this often enough because even the largest businesses don't. Only 10% of businesses actually have, large and small, have a business plan. 4% of them review it regularly is a dismal number. If you're talking about your most important financial asset and something that you're, in a lot of cases, dedicating your entire life to. So with that, I want to ask you all, what do you want to get out of today? I've given you a little bit of an overview of where I could potentially help. I want to share with you our 4 pillars, which is obviously one of them is that strategic planning. The other 3, which we'll cover as well in detail, but that sort of ideal client, making sure that you've got a differentiated proposition. To be able to have a differentiated proposition, you need to know who it's for. So ideal client, scaling for efficiency, which really comes back to making sure that you've got a good plan, you're making deliberate decisions, and then finally your team. So people engagement, high performance, making sure you've got the right people, talent management frameworks, etc. So I can talk on a lot of things. I want you to talk to each other, but what do you want to get specifically out of today? It can be as broad or narrow as you like.
So planning for growth and scale.
Planning for growth and scale.
That's if I have to.
Yeah, amazing. Why? Why is that the most important thing to you?
Well, I think it ties in to a lot of the other things that we're trying to do in the business already. So,
yeah, absolutely. And so there's a different ways that you can think about that. So do you think you're set up for scale at the moment, or is there gaps? Where are you focusing on?
I think we are pretty well set up for scale, but
yeah. So processes, people, everything's kind of all there. You just need to okay, great. Thank you for your contribution. We can definitely talk about that. About everyone else. Because I promise you, I'm not going to talk at you for an hour and a half. You're going to sleep by the end of it.
Gotta get involved.
I think for us, it's for me, it's more about the performance culture and long-term cap management.
Yeah, okay.
So those the 2 key areas.
Why?
Performance management, I think the high performance culture bit.
Yep.
The kind of bit of a movement in our team, new recruit.
Yep.
And then changes in business. So it's probably a short-term pain point, but just need to realign the ship. So that's of interest.
Yep, okay.
The long-term stuff is this long-term stuff. Like we're looking at expansion, growth, and similar to that.
Yeah.
Building ourselves up for, significant growth moving forward. But for me, it's a big part of making sure there is the forward business, but then there's succession at the back end as well comes through. So I can't do this very quickly.
No.
I'm only 21. But.
Exactly. No, you've done the 3-hour session on succession. If you're not thinking about succession, pretty much as soon as you start a business, you're thinking about it too late.
So the other part is
Steve's dead.
Yeah, we travel in circles. But it's the truth. It is honestly the truth. If you think about any business that really starts, they already start setting up with an end goal in mind. Generally, you do not start a project if you don't know what the end is going to look like. There's nothing else in the world really where you generally start something if you don't have a goal. Most people don't start running unless they've got a goal to lose weight at a certain number or run a marathon or something like that. You don't just get up and go, I'm just going to go for a run today. You don't start painting or doing something like that unless you've got a goal of actually doing something. But people start businesses all the time with no goal, with no end game at all. And it just blows my mind. It's literally one of the only things that human beings do, that we start and we just don't have an end. It's fascinating. Anyway.
Probably why 9 out of 10 businesses fail.
That's exactly right. Because how can you? I get really. I don't want to talk about succession because too much. You just covered it, but it's one of those things without getting into the. It's like getting into a car to go to Sydney or not even knowing where you're going to go. And that's fine, because it's really cool to have road trips, etc., where you don't know where you're going. But at what point does it get frustrating where you're just kind of driving and you're just like, I'm bored, I don't know where I'm stopping, I need to go to the toilet. Do you know what I mean? I've made all these, I've run out of gas, I don't know where the nearest gas station is. It becomes boring pretty quick, right?
Stopping at track has been goal when you go on the city. Good pie shop.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Noted.
They might end up a crappy hotel.
Exactly. Where imagine if you actually put together, which most people do, a plan. They go on holiday, they've got together an itinerary, at least something. They book their flight home. Do you know what I mean? Like they do something around what the end. It doesn't always have to stay the same, right? That's why there's flexible fares and all that sort of stuff. Right? But it's really important that you have something in mind of what you're building towards, what you're wanting to achieve, right? And what that looks like. And a really big part of that is actually knowing personally, we're going to talk about this in a minute, knowing personally what it is that you want to achieve. Because a lot of the time I spend with leadership teams, and I'm not just talking about smaller businesses here, I'm talking about like CEOs and executive leadership teams of really, really, really big multidisciplinary firms. I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some really large institutions because of obviously the brand that comes with Macquarie, etc. And I'm talking about people that literally I have conversations with them and they almost sort of start to break down. They're like, I've lost sight of why I'm doing this. I've literally lost sight of what I'm trying to build, what we're trying to create. Now that's a really dangerous place when you've got 4 or 5 or 10 leaders in a room that have absolutely zero alignment to themselves, let alone each other. Yeah. It's a recipe for disaster. Anyway, what else? What else do you want to get out of today? What do you want to learn from your peers?
I think for me, it's just having, like, it's always so busy in your business that just taking the time to focus on
Working in your business as opposed to working on your business.
Yeah. One of those things that we see all the time, particularly with smaller businesses and large businesses, but definitely with small businesses, because you start as most of the time in wealth management, you start as a practitioner because you love what you do. You love providing advice, you love being with clients, and it's very, very hard to juggle. And it's a very different skill set as well to be a business owner and think strategically in comparison to actually being the practitioner. So the best advice I can give, and there is no holy grail with this, is actually blocking out your diary and actually working on it. Don't do it and just for lip service. Like you wouldn't put time in your diary with a client and then cancel it last minute just because you didn't feel like it, unless it was an emergency or something like that. But we tend to do this to ourselves. We either don't put it in or we put it in and just completely ignore it. Like you wouldn't do that with a client. You need to be as disciplined from that mentality with business planning as well. Because the thing is that people like me, coaches and people who do research, etc., hopefully I'm inspiring and I'm kind of like, you'll leave here today and yeah, I'm going to put in my diary and all that sort of stuff. But only you can do it and only you can know what you want to build. I can ask you lots of questions and challenge you on things. Your peers can do the same. But ultimately, you've all got the answers. You just need to find the space to actually come up with them. It is just giving yourself the time to do that. The reason why a lot of these businesses grow so rapidly, they're not that much better than anyone else. They're disciplined about making sure that they spend time planning and they know what they're planning. That's why you get people that can start, like they train for a marathon or whatever it is that they're doing. They're not better runners or anything like that. They're just disciplined about how they've done it. And they're not only disciplined about what they've done, they're disciplined around and they've put some strategic thinking about the fact, oh, actually, well, I can't really run in the morning because I've got little kids that need to go to school. So let's run maybe later on at night instead of going, no, I'm going to run in the morning because I want to run in the morning and then going, oh, well, I can't run in the morning for the kids and they're not doing anything, right? So it's about like, what can I do? What's within my realm? What makes me happy? That is strategy planning. That is all it is. So it's a good point. What else? Anything else in particular? Anything online?
No.
No, they're very quiet online, and that's not usual.
I can't jump in and make you talk, but maybe I can.
Maybe you can. I think so. I reached out to Elise with the thought in mind that this isn't something that we have focused on a lot. And just like Renee said, we get stuck in that. I've just got to get through the the things that are on my plate.
Yeah.
I can't think more than that.
Yeah.
But we've had a few newer advisors come on board, and that thinking about now what, and just like that. Now I'm a business owner, not just a practitioner. How do I manage all of that? How does that all come together?
Yeah.
And we're in that point again within our industry where we've got changes coming through, and we get lost in the changes. I've got to make changes.
Yeah.
But we lose that planning and that thought about why am I doing what I'm doing? And sometimes it can be about profit.
Please don't shy away.
Everybody has a business so that I can have some money. But one thing, so with financial advisors, I've been in financial planning for 20 years. And the thing that comes, from financial planners, there are very, very few financial planners that I've met who don't. Their aim is to help people. They genuinely just want to help people, and they've got a skill set that they've developed that can help people. Yeah. That not a lot of people have. So if you look at the numbers now in Australia of financial advisors, you've got a very unique skill set. There are very few of them who are in it just for the money. So I think that's something that you should hold up.
Absolutely.
As who you are.
Absolutely.
But it's how to help your clients too, not just your business, but you planning for your business helps your clients in the long run.
And I think that's the point. Like, that's exactly right. It's really interesting. I've got a couple of things, just food for thought, right? Like, they're things that everybody knows, but we don't often stop to think about it. You haven't stepped out into your own business to buy yourself a job. And anybody that does that are idiots, I think. I shouldn't say that, but they are, because it's like you're very intelligent people. Go and get a job for somebody like Macquarie and get paid pretty well and not have any of the stresses of trying to plan and trying to manage staff and, all that sort of stuff, right? So it's no point in just buying yourself a job. Most advisors are not doing that. They're doing this because they genuinely want profit. But the difference is that there's two completely different skill sets here that we all have already of being an advisor and being a business owner. You need to be able to separate them. And the only way to do that is to actively separate it in your diary. There's no secret sauce to this. There's no it doesn't matter if you do days, it doesn't matter if you do whatever it is, it has to be in your diary, and you have to treat that time as sacrosanct for your business.
There's it's one thing I noticed, like in technology is starting to support us. So Outlook does this thing through Microsoft 365 where you can pre-program, I need X hours of focus time in a week, and then it starts to fill it in. I've only started using it recently.
Amazing.
Was it Beaver or something? Yeah. Is it like? Yeah, I think they like something like Beaver or something. That Microsoft 365.
I don't know.
Of things. The really important stuff will never get.
And
Yes.
that means it's dropping out of internet connection.
Okay.
Small business. So
I'm really glad you asked it. Now, there's no silver bullet. only you know when you're best placed to do your best work in terms of your best thinking. So like, there's no point planning, sitting it down potentially at 7 o'clock at night if you know that you just can't function. And like, well, but it's my only time when the kids are in bed, or like when a client's not calling me or whatever. If it's not working for you, there's no point scheduling it in there if you can't actually actively engage your brain. Right? So you've got to work out when you're best, when you're at your best, and what it is just like management of your team in terms of saying like, so this 2 hours on Friday morning, I am unavailable. Unless the world is literally crumbling, and actually giving them parameters of what to actually call about, but it's 2 hours, I'm unavailable. Turn your phone off, turn like your notifications off, because a lot of the time people put in their diary and then hope to be interrupted because that's the other thing too. Like, again, you think about it from a psychology perspective. It's kind of like, oh, I put it in the diary, I'm doing some work, and like I'm sort of procrastinating, and then it's like, oh yeah, I was interrupted, but I kind of wanted to be interrupted because I technically had my mojo happening, right? I've got people that have put in multiple times a week and then work out within 5 or 10 minutes if they've got their mojo. Yeah. And if they don't, they just spin it, right? But they've got other times where they're going to try. Right? It's all about who is going to potentially interrupt me. Am I going to interrupt myself? And what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen? So telling someone when you're available or not. When's it work best for your brain function? Like, when are you best placed to actually do the work? If you need your leadership team around, making sure that they are in the same headspace that they're available too, and they're not kind of going, oh, well, actually, I've got something on here and I can't make it. Like, no, you're all committing to this time to work together. Again, I know that you're all small business owners, but if you want to grow your business, it's the delivery around doing this that's actually going to help with the growth. I've got case study after case study of seeing businesses do nothing different but they're planning, because it just means that all of the decisions that they're making on a daily basis about who to see, where they're spending their time, all that sort of stuff, they've just got way more clarity.
Yeah.
And they do nothing different realistically except that, and their business grows exponentially. And it sounds like black magic, but it's not. Otherwise, you're just literally spinning your wheels in the mud.
Yeah, I'm doing it between 5:30 and 7 hours to life.
All right. So look, I think from our perspective, this is like some of the research we do. It's more interesting. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I think it's just good to get a bit of a pulse check on this. So I mentioned there's 4 pillars that we've researched, and it consistently comes up in every research piece of work we've ever done. But this idea of clear direction, we just talked about, done a 3-hour workshop on end game. All right. We did a big study on stress and fatigue around, and it's not just size of firm, but we know that leaders and leadership teams and practice principals are seriously and more heavily impacted by stress and fatigue when they don't have a clear direction. All right. I think that sort of kind of speaks for itself. Sustainable growth. All right. Right. Having an offering that they can't really articulate. Now, the thing is that everybody here has something to offer, very much so. But when was the last time you sat down and actually thought about the best language to use to articulate it consistently across your team? Just literally making the space to do that will help exponentially, because then you'll start being known for what it is that you offer to market. It's consistency, efficiency. Now, high-performing firms looking to introduce new systems. Now, when I say new systems, I don't necessarily mean technology. I mean, technology plays a big part of that. But I mean actually just even new systems within their teams. They regularly get their team involved a lot of the time to work through, hey, what are we actually doing? Where are we all spending our time? The amount of workshops I've done where I've done very little talking. We've got, hard to believe, I know, because of how much I'm talking right now, but where we've got the team together, big or small, and they've just kind of mapped out either a process, what they're doing day to day, And all they've done is question, why are we doing this? And they've cut hours and hours out of their weeks, stopping doing things that it's just always been done that way. Or we've got this newsletter that we send to clients, but actually its open rate is like 3%, but we spend 20 hours a week putting it together. Like, when was the last time you did even just that with your teams? Just did an efficiency review. We seem to be, our industry is notoriously known for shiny new object syndrome. Like, new things come out, it's like, yes, I need that. Well, yeah, it's really important that we keep up to date with what's happening in technology, but a lot of the time the new systems are not what we need. We just need to strip out and go back to basics and making sure that all of the time that we're spending is actually efficient. I remember I did an efficiency study before I joined Macquarie. It was a global study on wealth management. It was largely from the US, but I'm talking about now, I think what I'm talking about now is representative, I think, of probably every industry. What do you think advisors thought their most effective use of time was?
Being in front of clients.
Being in front of clients and asking for referrals, right? That was kind of like exactly that. How much time do you think they said that they spent doing that? It was about that, which is great.
I'm just smart.
Modest too.
No, I want to spend more time with my clients,
Yep.
improve my productivity, and improve quality of life for myself and my lovely sister. That's So
I love that. So, which is really fantastic. Do you know what we found though when we mapped a lot of where time was going? 70% of their time was going towards miscellaneous. So not even compliance and regulatory, like miscellaneous. So randomly.
Yeah, that's the time. That's I call it email time.
Yeah.
You just some days just get caught in the loop. All you do is email.
Miscellaneous.
Just responding.
But usually it's pressing delete.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You can set up some rules in your emails. You can unsubscribe to lots of things that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I found it really interesting because I'm not advocating or saying that there is a lot of work that you have to do that would be much better spent doing other things. I absolutely know that, right? And this is not just in Australia, although we are heavily regulated, it's everywhere, and it's probably in a lot of industries, right? But 70% of their time doing miscellaneous work. That screams lack of planning. How many, and I mean this sincerely, because I'm so busy and I fall victim to this, right? How many, like honestly, hand on heart, when you've gone through a day and you reflect on your day and you go, okay, I've had, 2 or 3 hours with clients today, like face-to-face time with clients. I've got a bit of work done, but then you start to really kind of hone in on how many dead hours you've had in the day. I do it regularly. Like I reckon I probably had about 4 hours where I could, if it was better planned, I could have done another 4 hours worth of work.
Yeah. I keep thinking to myself that you sit in front of a computer and your brain's not working. How much more efficient you are if you get up, go outside, go for a walk.
Exactly.
And let thoughts just come and you come back and get it done.
Exactly. So many people
and you achieve the other goals too. Yeah,
exactly. And this is the whole point. I think we kind of get ourselves into this rhythm of, I need to work really hard. I need to be here. Nothing proved this to me more when I was a graduate. I was working I was working with NAB. I was very close to the investment banking team. Anyway, they had a ping pong table and everything. We're all really set up in their area. They were there from like 6 a.m. in the morning till like 11, 12 o'clock at night most of the time. Mate, I'll tell you what, they were all like ping pong champions, right? It did cause me to think even back then, many years ago, going, how much work are they actually getting done? Like this perception that they work really long hours, which I know that they do, but they seem to have an awful lot of time to play ping pong and to do and I know that they need downtime and they need to relax, but I'm all about ruthless efficiency if I can be. Have a look up something called time boxing if you haven't heard of it before. It's what probably some of the most ruthless leaders from a business perspective adhere to, like things like people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all of those. It's basically just like their diary is planned with an inch of its life, even sometimes down to like toilet breaks, right? Like it is, they know exactly, and they don't do anything outside of what their diary says that they need to be doing. And it's all effective for the way that they think, the way that they run their day, right? So there has to be, you can't just put, this is the other thing we run with the risk of as well. I mentioned that your question Matt was asked before, and I mentioned the marathon running. It would be absurd of me to think I've got a 3 and a 4-year-old, right, that need to get ready for daycare and all that sort of stuff. For me to go, right, bye, I'm out for a run for an hour, like from 7 till 8 o'clock, right? Like it's in the morning. It's just not going to happen. So putting that in there, of course, I'm setting myself up for failure. So making sure that you actually take into account your life, where you work best, how you function best, where your clients really want to see you. I've got some, advisors where they're like, no, I need to do after hours work with my clients because that's their time, or I don't see clients on a Friday, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Set it up so it works for you, but set it up. And then and also try to get your teams to set it up as well. This is kind of a cultural thing, right? And we always lead from the top. Right, building a high performance team, right? It's really interesting. We won't spend a huge amount of time on this because it's a really, really big topic, but happy to kind of go into it. And it's actually one of my favourite topics to talk about. But I will give you this little bit of an insight around hiring and a way around thinking about people. Too many people, too many small businesses as well, smaller businesses, hire bums, not brains. Think about it for a minute. We panic because there's an empty chair. You just need a set of hands and a bum to do the work. Right? If you started actually hiring brains rather than bums, which means you're going to need to do it a bit sooner than what you actually need, which is scary from a balance sheet perspective. I get it. Your business again will grow exponentially. You'll got you'll more likely get the right person. Right? If you're panicking because you just need somebody to do the work, the chances are, I promise you probably haven't hired the right person. Right? And if you have, you've probably hired the right person for right now, not for where you want to be in 6, 12, 18 months, 3 years, 5 years. Okay. Hire brains, not bums. Okay. I want you to all have a look at this tool. Now, I know that a lot of you are running smaller businesses, potentially with yourselves as the business owner, but again, this is a really important exercise, even if there is no leadership team as such, it's just you. This is giving you an opportunity to do the reflection that I think that you actually need to do, all businesses need to do regardless of their size. And it's as simple as this. How would you rate, there's 3 categories. The first one is growth. How would you rate or describe your growth ambitions? Are you comfortable with the level of growth in your business? Do you need to accelerate, or do you need to double? Don't put down as well, because you don't have to share this with anyone. Bless you. And again, you can be G2.5, right? Like I'm not. The only reason that we've given you 3 categories is just for ease and to give you a tool to actually start to think about it. Because again, I think a lot of the time we start to get concerned about what other people think we should be, not what we actually want to be. And if it changes, that's okay too. Risk. How would you describe your risk appetite? Are you comfortable with the level of risk you've got in your business? Or you'd be comfortable with a greater level of risk? Or you're prepared to accept much more risk? Right? Accepting that maybe it could impact the value of the business. How do you find risk? That's up to you. It could be key person risk. It could be debt. It could be trialing a new client segment that you've never worked in before. It could be buying another business. It could be a merger. It could be whatever you want. But again, that's a great question because now it gives you a chance to start thinking about what does actually risk look like to you. Because now it means there's potentially options out there for you as well, which we're going to cover in a second. And then finally, control. How would you describe your desire for control? So control is not important to you as long as the business gets to where I want it to be. Now, this is a really hard one because a lot of people lie here. Okay.
I'm going to see through.
Yeah. Thank you for suggesting that you are, because the amount of people that go, oh, control's not important, and then we start talking about, I'm literally doing sessions with them, no, control's not important.
In
And
reflection, sorry, that was silly, but actually I'm a sector because I'm having to divest things, it means I don't have to do it.
which is a good thing, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
No. I want you guys to talk. Please talk, right? This is important stuff, right? It gives you, again, you're just showcasing exactly what this tool's meant to do, is to get to your brain thinking strategically rather than operationally.
So God.
If anybody says that they know exactly what they are across all these categories right now, I would absolutely challenge them. Because I promise you don't.
Yeah, I'd argue that, like, even if you were a C2, you'd be happy if you were a C1, as long as you've got the right people.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
It's all about who's involved.
Absolutely.
When you think about what control actually means.
I suppose there's not tying a number together, right? You can say, right, I'm C1, control's not important, but I'm R1 at the same time. And that's like, or you, sorry, not R1, whatever the highest risk is.
Oh, you're prepared to accept much more risk.
Oh, yeah, sorry, R3.
Yeah.
See, that's just like a lethal plan. You don't want control, you want to take risks. It's just
Well, it's not yes and no. It just probably means that you're probably going to be better off joining a bigger game somewhere else.
yeah, working for something.
Yeah, possibly.
Wow. Well,
The thing is that the big
The opposite ends of the scale.
well, the big point here is that, and we touched on it before, is it's the personal thing, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned, I probably said a bit of crude thing where I was like, there's no point buying yourself a job. There's no point going and starting your own business if you're working your absolute bottom off for a similar wage that you could get working for somebody else. If at the same time you're spinning your wheels and your capital value is not really increasing. Because to me, that's sort of like lunacy, right? So there's different options out there for you. You've just got to know what they are, and you've got to have things like this, tools like this to actually challenge you. Most people that go into business, that's not what they're doing. I have come across it though. I have. One gentleman springs to mind that I did some help with for, and I spent an awful lot of time with him because he desperately needed help. He had taken over his mother's business and he was struggling because the business was supporting his family. He had all the stress of that. He didn't really know whether he genuinely wanted to be a business owner. He wanted to be an advisor, but he didn't know that he wanted to be a business owner. He hadn't kind of realised what the owner piece had meant in terms of the fact that he wasn't seeing his kids and everything else. And he was stressed to his eyeballs. And he hadn't even thought about the fact that he could potentially be a huge commodity himself because he's in his 40s. Mate, you are a talented guy with a book. Like, would you consider working with somebody else, for someone else? But, oh no, look, I've got to do it myself, that martyr's type attitude, because no one had ever sat down with him and just given him a tool to think through strategically how to actually think about his life and his business.
Does that come back to not planning?
That's
not
it.
knowing what your end game is.
Exactly, because he'd just gone into his mum's business. There was no goal there. It was kind of like, oh well, yeah, I want to do this, I want to take it on. That was it. There was no like real strategic plan as to, and that's, I think a lot of the time, as I mentioned before, business is a funny thing, particularly in wealth, because, and you said yourself said it, Caroline, is that all you guys want to help people. You go into advice because you want to help people. Great. Who do you want to help? You can't help everyone. Right? And business owners that say that to me, I have big fights with them. You can't. Right? Right? Some of the biggest global brands in the world don't help everyone. They can't. Right? So that mentality of I want to help everyone is not a good business mentality. You need to know who you want to help. Right? So then there's some things that we can go through from there, but it's kind of just being able to separate the business thinking from the advice giving and the practitioner thinking. And it's the space to do that. Please use this tool with your leadership teams, with yourself, go back and review it. Work out what risk means to you, what control means to you. Because I'm going to give you this piece here too. Oh, yeah, go back. There you go.
Caroline will share.
I will share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes I know that having it on your phone though and having it right there can be helpful. But yes, like I said, there is so many slides here, they're all yours, okay? So this is your growth risk control profile. Now, again, this is just talking points. We're not suggesting in any stretch that these are the only 4 options that you have. Okay? But we wanted to give you an opportunity to have a bit of a think about, I guess, some of the scenarios that you may not have had a thought about before, right? Like if you have a strong desire for control, you want to take more risk and you want to grow, then go for gold. Like no one else is going to do it for you. You've got no desire in working for or with anyone else, and you want to take lots of risk and you want to grow, then have at it, right? Like don't, like if that's genuinely what you want to do, then sit down and create a strategy that is stretching your thinking. I can give you examples of where we've seen businesses do that. You may have heard of a company called Invest Blue. They're an incredibly large financial services firm in Australia, licensed under AMP. They've been with VAN now for 13 years. They were one of our first clients that signed up this long before my time with VAN. But we did a lot of strategy work with them early days. Some of my predecessors, and one of the integral conversations that they had with leadership back then, when they were only very small realistically in comparison to what they are now, was the leaders turned around, they had this kind of mindset. They didn't want anyone else to have control. They were happy with the leadership team. They were all aligned, but they wanted to take more risk and they wanted to grow. And they said to themselves, okay, well, we're going to get 6,000 clients. That's our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal, 6,000 clients. Now team sat there and went, really? Like that's your big goal? Is it big enough? Like, and they changed it to 60,000. And I'm not saying that we're the reason that they're as big as what they are, but the thing is that it's just that mentality shift. So like, okay, well that is our goal now. I'm going to like up my game.
If it doesn't get down to the size, I'm looking at 6,000 clients to 10 times the size.
Yep.
So these are the same fun. Economies and stuff. And
Anyway, just take over the world. You're happy to be able to provide for your family, for your staff. That may be
We've got a firm that's in there. They're massive. Similar sort of thing. It depends on the provider structure, and it takes them ages to find There's lots of clients that Invest Blue doesn't their advice. And so they flick them on. You've met what part of Macquarie portfolio. We're basically a team of businesses with their growth. So I spend most of my days with firms, on their strategy days, helping present back to market, creating new content, working with external providers and stealing their content, you know, doing all this sort of really great fun. So,
But he was interested in being involved. What does that take?
absolutely, yep. So most of the time we work really wants to be challenged. There's ways that we can be.
Interested, yeah.
It's not. I don't understand.
Do you want me to take pause for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry. We've not involved. That's all I care about is making sure.
But I'm single people who want to come out and then don't use it. I run my own business, I've got one team and I'm separate.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to not want that time out, not do anything.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to know, okay.
Yep.
What are my next steps?
Yep.
Do I attack this puppy?
How do you use that time? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is a really important step. Okay. You need to know where you're at and you need to do this regularly and check back with yourself and your leadership team, or just please schedule this time in to continue, because you want to make sure that you're still heading to Sydney, right? Because your destination can change, but you can change. You need to check back in. Are you still heading to Sydney? Do you still feel the same about your car and your mode of transport?
Make that stop.
Yeah.
We're going to Bonington.
Going myself.
The SAF results. So this is what we created is our successful advice framework. Now on the back end or the back other side of or on one of the other pages, and the very, very small page, is I want you to use this. We won't do it now, but there's 24 markers there across 4 categories, which are our 4 pillars, to give you an opportunity to rate yourself from as a 1 to 5 in each of those. No business, even if they're a very successful business, can rate themselves a 5 in everything. Okay, but again, this is kind of just a bit of a check-in, a touch point. Will give you a bit more of an indication of where you kind of need to up your game, where you need to focus a bit more time. Again, this is a tool. And these are how to interpret some of those results. So given the interest of time, I want to leave that with you. But like I said, I'm around. I'm very easy to contact. It might take a couple of days to get back to you sometimes if I'm traveling, but I'm very easy to contact.
Well, on your way to Sydney.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I'll be in touch with Elise too to see if we can do a bit more planning.
Absolutely.
These
Yeah,
sorts of
really.
sessions,
Yeah, really happy to do that. Look, I'm very passionate about this. Just to give you guys background as well. So my mum and dad have run their own businesses their whole life. My husband's got his own business. I am a director on another business. It's outside of financial services. I live and breathe small business myself as well. I love it. So I know how important this is. And so I want to help as much as I can. These are our 4 pillars. So making better decisions, right, and executing successfully on them. And that is just around deliberacy. There is no other word that I could use there. It's just being deliberate about what it is that you're creating so you can actually decide. Once you know you're going to Sydney, like I said, I keep using this example, but you can decide what car you're going to take. You're going to take the bus, all those sorts of things, right? You can't make any of those decisions unless you know where you're going. Having that strong differentiated proposition goes back to who are you serving? Who is your ideal client? Not ideal clients, ideal client. Doesn't mean you can't serve anyone else, right? But you've got to have a bullseye of who it is that your ideal client, what do they look like? What do they pay you? What's their psychological profile? What do they need? What are they trying to avoid? Why do they need you? Because if you can speak to that person in a way that makes them feel like you are literally speaking directly to them, that is your CVP to market. And if you're just speaking generically to everybody, then you serve no one. And this is where scale becomes so hard. How can you scale a business where all of your clients' needs are different, all of their perception of value is different, all of their price points are different? It's very, very hard to scale because you can't get economies of scale. You can't get similar processes. You can't even hire the right team members with the right personality set to deal with the type of clients that you're wanting to look after because you're dealing with everyone. This is probably one of the biggest downfalls that I see of smaller size businesses in all industries, but definitely in financial services. Because of that mentality is, I want to serve everyone.
I was going to say, this is probably one of the most challenging things to think about. And it went really quiet for just a second there. Everybody went, oh.
Well, I mean, you can look at it from a perspective.
Yeah.
You cannot be friends with everyone. You do not want to be friends with everyone.
Right.
Same with clients.
I sacked a client recently and it was just so good.
Amazing.
Yes. I really don't think we're a good fit. I think you should look after your own staff.
Yeah. Well done. There is people have this fear, especially small business owners. They have this fear that if I say no to revenue, how can you say no to revenue? Saying no to revenue is not only one of the most empowering things you'll do, but it will set you more on your course of going in the right direction.
Sometimes you've got clients where a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. They know a little bit.
Yeah.
They think they know so much more than they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And you just think, you're a clown. I don't need you.
But this is the thing here. Can you add value? And how much?
They think they know all
That's
well.
exactly right. So, and the second question, do you want to add value to those people?
And when you support staff, say, oh, I've just had such fun. I got what's stabbing myself in the eye.
Get rid of it.
I've got to get rid of that first.
I'm very brutal with this stuff, and I know it's easy for me to turn around and say this, but I mean this sincerely. You don't walk in to a steakhouse and ask for like a seafood platter.
No.
Like you don't walk into McDonald's and go, oh, can I have a steak? Like you just don't, because they don't serve that there. But for whatever reason, our industry, people walk in with something and they're like, yeah, we can do that. Roll up, pull up a chair. Yeah. I know that we only serve pre-retirees. What, you're an accumulator, you're in your 20s? Yeah, we can do that. All of a sudden, they've got a business where they're completely capped out, running around looking after a whole range of clients with not one similar process. I'm exaggerating here, right? But
I actually don't think you are. So think about some of your practices. It's been built that way. We'll take whoever comes in the door because we need money.
that's exactly right. And I appreciate, I really do appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. But then they go, oh, I'm not efficient. And I don't know why I'm not efficient.
It's very,
And do you know what? I haven't thought it through in those terms either. You can't have those efficiencies if every client is different. Yeah.
That's the thing you were alluding to earlier, though. If you've got someone who's referring a lot of people to, like I've been looking after one family for nearly 30 years, and in the last 12 months, I've received about another 5 families referred to me from the same family. Because they just, and then you end up with a heap of different stuff because everybody's different.
So it's interesting too, 30 years and only now starting to refer clients to you, or is it that those clients that they're referred are now going, oh, I need to do something?
A bit of both.
Interesting.
Have they referred to you previously?
Yeah, they have.
Yes.
I said before, you can still help them without you being the one to help.
Yeah.
You can say, look, this is what you need, like this, I can't, you don't really think whether I help you with
Well,
it.
most of them are retirees, but it's just interesting how, you know, when Nick was saying that you get one source, it gives you a lot of people, and you in one sense, you don't want to say no because then maybe the referrals will
It'll
stop.
be but it's just like me helping,
Yeah.
you need to speak to this person, and then they still go away from the conversation saying, well, Rob helped me.
Yep.
He didn't sit down with me and go through the process, but he still helped me.
Yep.
Speak to Rob. He couldn't exactly help me, but he helped me by passing the story.
The answers, but I can help you find them.
It also comes back to the examples of McDonald's versus going to a vegan restaurant. You might have a wider selection of meals, but you are serving a philosophy or you were serving a style of person. So don't get stuck in the idea of McDonald's and only steak or whatever.
Yes.
What is your concept? And what are you offering?
That's exactly right. But the thing is most people they don't think about this. They don't. So we've got businesses, for example, that have now, it took them ages and mentally to get there. It's taken them a long time. We've got a firm down in Victoria, we're in Victoria, that only serves teachers. That's all they do.
Yeah.
But they know everything about how they get paid. They know everything about their short graduation. They are, but you know, it's now a self-perpetuating business because if you're a teacher, you go to them.
Yeah, they know.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Another guy in Sydney, in fact, probably most people know, Pitch Partners team, potentially he's always all over LinkedIn, but Charlie Viola. So he came in, so most people don't realise this because he's associated with Pitch Partners in Sydney. They think he's being fed all of his business through the accounting firm. He's built that firm on his own pretty much, and then obviously his team, pretty much outside of Pitch Partners. He is the number one person in Sydney that you go to as a C-suite executive in financial services. He's carved out such a niche for himself that he now gets invited by the likes of Macquarie, Commonwealth Bank and everything else to come in and educate their executives once a year on how to actually run their portfolios and shares and everything else. He knows more about how Macquarie C-suite executives get paid than Macquarie does in so many respects. He's carved out such a niche. And so think about how many people he says no to that do not fit that category. Well, I've got lots of money. But I have a completely unique skill set that serves this type of person. It's like going to a knee surgeon and saying, oh, can you fix my ears? No, I'm a doctor, but I specialise in knees. And you make a really good point. You don't have to specialise in a particular industry or a particular strategy, but you need to work out what you actually specialise in, who you help. Do you help people that just are completely investment phobics, that just hate talking about money? That just do you specialise in people that just want to delegate every decision to somebody else? Do you work with people that are just completely time poor, you can never get onto, and they can only see you after hours? Do you know, who do you work with? Who is your ideal client? Because then now you can start to set up a business serving those people. Now you've got a value proposition, because then when you speak to those people, you're speaking directly to them. They're like, oh my God, it's like you're inside my mind, right? Where things get really generic if you have to speak to everyone.
Well, Liz, you must have come across businesses where they're multidisciplined experts, as an example, or people say that, Matthew might have a particular niche, that's sort of different one. So too is Jenny, Nick, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're all under the one roof. And then the growth of a client might mean that they let go one day and they go to the other.
Yep.
Got any general comments about that type of model?
Look, if you can make it work, and we've got businesses absolutely that can make it work, where they don't have a one firm view over the ideal client. They've got.
So Nick's not trying to be the general practitioner. He's a specialist.
Yep.
So too is everybody else that works in that practice, and collectively,
yep,
they can
deliver it.
The practice can be maybe all things to all people.
Yes.
Yeah, but within the practice, people specialise. They've got their niche and specialisation.
Again, but if that's a strategy that the business is running, that's great. It comes with its challenges, because then how do you actually go to market? You're talking about building capital value in your business. How do you go to market as a brand if you're literally serving everyone? Do you know what I mean? Or it then becomes the person in that business is the person, like is brand. And then you've got a big firm with a lot of key person risk if you don't do it well. And I've seen that happen too. So it's about making sure you get the balance right, because the message to market for firms, and this is where we deal with a lot of multidisciplinary firms, and some of the biggest problems that we have are with people and firms that work under the same brand. They're the same business, and they work better with people outside and refer better and have JVs and everything. People outside of their four walls than people that actually work with internally.
Do you work for a business like that?
I do. I absolutely
Each department competes against the other. And they're not all rowing together in the same boat.
I had a meeting this.
I mean, with respect.
I can throw Macquarie under the bus. I have no issues. I have so much respect for what the story of Macquarie and what they've created.
Yes.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. We cannibalise each other all the time.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's getting worse.
There'd be very few institutions that don't.
That's exactly right.
And they smile at each other as they stand with each
It's just it's one of those things. It's just so you've got to be careful that you're not necessarily just because you've got a brand or a wrapper around something doesn't necessarily mean that it can go to market as, because that's the thing. If you go to market then with all of these different specialists, on one hand, you're a multidisciplinary firm that can offer all of these fabulous services, but if those people internally are not referring properly, they're not playing the team, they're
Well, if there's equal buying.
if there is, there's very few firms that in fact, I've never ever worked with a firm, large or small, that has more than one person on the leadership team where there's ultimate one. I just got a missed call from one of my consultants that I do a lot of work with. She was with one of our very large firms in the Van network, and she did an alignment workshop today with their executive leadership team. Under 50% alignment. That was like they did like all this testing and stuff like that. I mean, they've been around for years. They've got 400 people working. Like really well-established firm, multidisciplinary firm, like national, very niche. No, possibly.
I don't know how you can have that many people.
But do you come back then? So multiple. Area. It's,
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't. We do see a lot of sinners.
Absolutely. I don't know why it keeps dropping out.
With it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is the thing, right? Like, there's nothing right or wrong in this, but as long as you know what you're creating, why?
Yeah.
And the referral sources. So I think for so long in our industry, we felt like we were competing against each other.
Yeah.
We don't have that competition. There's very few, 15,000 advisors in Australia now. If you can set up those referral arrangements, they don't have to be paid, but that there's an alignment of these are my types of clients, those are your types of clients, and having those.
You're not going to set them up if you can't go and articulate to somebody who you serve.
Yeah.
This is the number one source and frustration of a lot of these like JV arrangements is if you can't sit opposite me and tell me who I should be referring to you, we have a problem because how can I refer? We won't go through this because, again, this is all yours, but these are some of our points of how successful practices win across these key success drivers, right? Like I said, these slides are yours. I want to get more into how to actually use and how do you spend time when you block it out in your diary. I want to ask you some rhetorical questions to give you insights into what this actually means, defining your strategy, translating, executing, and monitoring, because it sounds so boring. And so I did a little note taking earlier. I use these same notes and questions, like they're rhetorical questions, but it'll give you more of a less theoretical understanding and more practical understanding of what we're talking about here. So defining the strategy, right? So I'm asking you these questions now, probably more rhetorically, but just think about it. When was the last time you considered all of your environmental factors impacting your business?
Never. Try and ignore it because it's too much stress.
Yeah, I'm not talking about all the regulatory stuff, but just the environmental factors. Oh, there's a lot of opportunity out there. We tend to focus on the negative, but there is actually a lot of opportunity out there for financial services and for wealth management in Australia.
From an opportunity set, then that's pure business development. You're sort of looking at business development.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I talk about that specifically, yes.
But that also gets back to capacity. If you don't have capacity,
Mhm.
you either, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You've got to either improve the efficiencies in your business to create some capacity.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's no point looking at it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, look, this is the thing. There's a lot of times hard decisions that need to be made. I've sat with business owners that have grown significantly, but at the start they've cut tails out of their business that was a significant portion of their revenue in order to create capacity of the right types of clients. And they've had to take a massive hit, and it's a decision that they've made to actually kind of restart. Or they've put people on, brains on, paid them overs, made sure that they're the right people, even though they don't necessarily have the work, because they're driving all of their effort into making sure that they have the work. Nothing like a bit of pressure to all of a sudden get the growth rate up, right? And this is the thing, if you do it brick by brick, and can do it brick by brick, it's going to be a lot slower.
At least does your research reveal an appropriate frequency of how often that should be conducted?
Of this sort of strategy.
The question that you just asked.
Oh, look, we generally see this done. So the strategy review, most businesses that we work with do something every 6 months. They do an entire strategy review once a year, where a lot of the partners or leaders or something will go away. They'll do their own pieces of work, look at the environment, put together what they're seeing. It doesn't have to be war and peace. It just shows that you've actually created some time to go out and having a look at what's out there. Because again, we spend too much time wrapped up in our own world. I'd say once a year is actually fine. Technology, with the rate that it's moving, particularly around AI, I'd say every 3 months. Just kidding.
Yeah. Every week.
Oh, it's away for 3 months.
Right, so how many people do you speak to outside of your business every year to understand where your business is relatively, where it is relative to the environment? Because again, we know that we do a lot of these sessions, and again, I've been doing a lot of the talking.
At least when you say environment, like, what do you mean exactly by that, like the environment?
Well, it could be anything really, in terms of like sometimes we get really absorbed in like all the regulatory stress that our industry is under at the moment. And so we get so obsessed talking about that we actually fail to see and flip that on its head and see the opportunity that potentially presents as well. We can sometimes get so caught up in what we're trying to do day to day that we're not seeing what other businesses are doing and what we can actually learn from some of their failures or successes. Some of the best conversations and highlights of my career has literally been putting the right people in the room and literally like throwing some questions out there and just letting them talk, because most of the time they don't. And if they do, it's very generic, high level stuff. It's not really deep, nitty gritty stuff that's actually helpful, because there is that I don't want to talk about when I'm really struggling. I want to appear like I'm kind of doing better than I am. There's lots of different reasons as to why that happens, but so the environment could be lots of different things. It's just how often do you get out of your own brain and actually speak to people in the network about how they can genuinely help you and what they're seeing. I already mentioned in terms of defining the strategy, who are your ideal clients? This is defining your strategy. Who are you serving? And why would a client choose you over another business down the road? Now, if that's generic, they're not going to choose you over another business down the road. They're going to choose whoever they're closest to. Right. So, all right, your strategy. Pardon?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. That's exactly right. No, I get that. I 100% get that. But it's really interesting. Competing based on price alone, and this is not just in financial services, this is actually all. If you're competing purely on price, it's just a race to the bottom. Eventually, you'll have nothing left to race it down to. Right? The thing is that we're in a services industry. And every single one of you in this room currently or have previously paid well and truly overs for service because you raise it.
The pricing in our industry isn't that transparent. Like, energy week or other services where you compare, like everything shows up in one place. Like unless you physically go to 10 different advisors to compare, it's not sort of, you don't know really what is expensive or cheap.
It's very true, and I actually can't get into debates around pricing. Not that anyone would dib a dog on me, because I work in Macquarie. That's like the one rule we do I have done pretty strenuous media training because I do a lot of public speaking, and yeah, mate, I would lose the job if I was in a room with advisors talking about what they're charging. So I wish that I could facilitate more discussions about this purely because of transparency, because I'm a big believer in it, and so clients. However, from the research that I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of research, not just with advisors, but with end clients. If your clients care about cost, it's because they don't see value. That's the psychology of just value in general. People will pay. My best mate, she's an absolute psychopath with her hair. She travels 2.5 hours and pays like $600 or $700 to get her hair done, because she will not let anybody else touch it because of how it makes her feel. Like there's so much laced with judgment, and it kind of is. But the fact of the matter is that that's what she pays. She sees value in that, right? Great, amazing. I can't judge her for that.
You can.
But I can. I can. I do. 5 hours or something. She's got really she's got beautiful hair, like really long.
And is that the client base that hairdresser has?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She
With the sign out the
specialises in
front, we
blonde.
fix up $150.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like she specialises in really long hair. She specialises in blonde.
Right.
So that's exactly right. So people that really care about their hair, that's who she trusts. People that like me that just goes to Supercuts and I just back in the ponytail. Yeah, she doesn't deal with people like me. So my point here is that if you're not appealing to a particular type of client, that's because you're trying to appeal to too many. Simple as that. People will see value in you. Everybody in this room has so much value to add. You've just got to work out who you want to add value to, and then what's your message to attract them.
Be able to enunciate.
That's it. So if you're, that's what I was saying before, like if you're speaking to people, so for example, I've got a business that I've done a lot of work with over the years. They specialize really in investment phobics, right? Like investment, like that's, they've set their office up. There's not a desk in their office. There's no cords, doesn't feel like an office because they don't want people to like clam up. So they've got like couches and they have like coffee tables and it's kind of like just a bit of a chat. Do you know what I mean? Like they've set their whole business up and they attract people like, widows that just have never had to deal with money before in their life. They're just made to feel really calm and comfortable. They attract people that have had really poor or bad experiences with financial advisors or with accountants or people in finance. Like that's their whole MO, right? Like that's who they want to work with. They want to work with investment phobics. I've got another business, like a lot of them you would probably know, like, and I've got a really big business in the US actually, that I've done a lot of work with as well, but they specialise in divorcees. That's who they specialise in. And they've got really good connections with divorce lawyers. They understand the industry, like that industry, and they understand the mediation process and all that sort of stuff. So they can. Pardon?
Vultures.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they're providing the advice, but they understand what that client's going through. Everything that they talk about, it's not just the advice piece, it's the empathy to be able to connect with that person. And that's where I think it's really important to work out, if you haven't done already, who your ideal clients are, because that's how you naturally build your business. And when you're talking about people that just refer, if you're getting generic referrals, it's because they feel that you're great, but there's no specialism in it. Like, for example, Charlie Viola, who I was talking about before, the C-suite executive, nobody refers him any business except C-suites because they know that that's not what he does. That's who he specializes. The investment phobics firm, they would never get a referral from somebody that works in finance or that has an understanding of investments and financial instruments and all this stuff. They just wouldn't do it. Like, you got to get somebody, because that's what they go to market. That's their whole go-to-market strategy. Like, we deal with these type of people. We can speak your language. Like,
so what if you genuinely, your head's spinning right now and you're going, I don't know who my target is. I don't know how to
work it out.
How to work it out.
Yep. Go through your clients right now, like not right now, but go through your client, all the clients you're working with now, and tell me who's your best client. Who's the ones you like to work with. Yeah. But don't just pick them based on personality alone. People that you're just like, because the other thing as well is that, okay, and I'll do this exercise with you now. If you, how much, you can answer me, but you don't have to. What's your ideal fee? So like we talk about fee. But what's your ideal cost? What's your ideal fee? Is it $20,000? Is it $20,000?
10.
10? Yeah.
I think 10 is good.
Could it be 15? Would you prefer 15?
Depends on the type of person, the type of advice that you're providing.
What about 20? 20 be too complex?
No.
Would you? No.
Depends on the.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say it depends on the individual and their
Remember what Elise is asking. What do you want?
Yeah.
Do you
That's
want
what I'm doing.
a $20,000?
If you can serve a $20,000 fee and add value to them, then why would you then aim for $10,000?
You do also have to be careful.
There's got to be enough 20,000 people
You can have
employed. That's my issue.
You've got to add, so you can have secondary clients.
Yeah.
It's about knowing who you're. Don't let geography Yeah. It's got some.
Also create problems because if you have a very, very large client, it becomes a specific risk.
Yep.
Because if they end up being a certain percentage of your revenue and all of a sudden they fall off the perch, your bottom line is screwed.
Yep.
So I personally believe you're better off having a larger number of slightly smaller clients, because if you lose one of them, that's not going to hurt your bottom line.
It's the invest blue strategy, and that's absolutely fine. My point is that's I love that, because you said that with conviction, so you genuinely believe that, which is great. So my point here is that I've done this so many times with so many people, and they're like, yep, $10,000, and then I push them and they end up at $25,000 as their ideal client, or they end back down at actually $3,000 or $5,000 as my ideal client size, or sorry, ideal client, because of how I can articulate, what I can do for them, the risks to my business, all these sorts of things. That's just fee. That's not personality, like geography, like anything else, right? So you ask Caroline, how do you actually find out who your ideal client is? Look through the people that you're working with now. Who are you adding? Like, who do you love working with that genuinely you are adding value to, that probably can go any more complex, and it's the type of that you want to do, right? That's to you. They're probably your ideal client.
We went through exercise a few years ago where fees, higher fees, we lost 1% of that client. Quadruple.
Yeah, it was a bit.
Experience like life cycle map and divorce song. Same.
So just going back to picking your eye question.
you have to be quite
Deliberate.
as to what you do, or
Yes.
do you go down the method of, hey, we'll be nice, and if you need any advice, well, you can chuck it, you can pay for it whenever you.
It comes back down to, so either way could work. Again, as long as you're making that deliberate decision. So I'll give you food for thought here, is that if you know, for example, like you've got sort of, excuse the expression, but like fingers in a family, like you've got lots of contacts there, and you don't want to obviously disrupt the relationships you've got there, but you also know that there's really strong connections and that these kids are potentially going to be the decision makers later on.
Intergeneration.
Right, exactly. So that would be probably unwise to get rid of the kids, right? Like, so you've got to make decisions, but then I have seen businesses be absolutely ruthless when it comes to their ideal client, and they say, well, this is not who I serve. When you're ready, like when you look like this, come back to me. It's again, like there's no right or wrong. It's just making sure that where businesses struggle is where they don't make a decision, like a blanket decision, and it's always ad hoc. Oh, like this client's different to this client. So then you've got some clients where you haven't really made a decision. You've got some that have. You don't really know where you stand when the new situation comes up. Like there's been no thought about it. It's kind of just like happened and grown like a vine, and then all of a sudden you're in like a world of pain because there's no uniformity of how you actually make these decisions going forward and what you're going to do, and then you've got to go through like literally one by one try to work out what to do, which is just time consuming and painful. So it's about working out what are the rules, decisions now, so you can actually work out what is best for your business.
So, but one of the things we tried a few years ago is like clients referring kids, it's 19 and needs super fun. But if I sit down and give advice based on that's what fun. So that's a tricky one. Like how do you deal with that? So we just say talk to them.
Oh, we get the parents to pay for it.
Oh. So the other thing we started doing is if a client referred a brother or sister and they're not an ideal client, we have a conversation, we spend the hour, have a conversation, understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But if we can say, you know what, your industry superfund can probably meet things, we leave that with them.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of here for you, but at this stage, you're better off just talking to industry superfund.
Yeah.
I'm happy to spend an hour with you. And that sort of works. So we had one lady, she came back, I received a $2 million inheritance a year later. Now I can help you.
Yeah, they're not your client, you still help them.
Yeah, you still help them.
And this is the thing. So again, it's just so you've created a process of how to actually do that, right?
Yeah.
And I've got other businesses that do similar thing, and then they check in every year. You've got those details. Why wouldn't you just check in?
She respected your advice.
Yeah.
And that's why she came back so session on that.
Yeah. And it's like getting the account book and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you tell them to piss off, you do really nice.
As Lee said, it's about creating that relationship.
Yeah.
For a reason, for a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I have gone over now. There is, like I said, there's no way I was going to get through like any of those slides, really. Hopefully it's been helpful and thought-provoking. There's still so much more that we can talk about. Like I said, these slides are yours. It's Friday afternoon. Please go enjoy your beer. I will be doing the same thing. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll hand you back.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. I'll just pop up the feedback form before too many people run out. But thank you so much. It's definitely thought-provoking. Would love to do more sessions like this where we can get you thinking more about your business, and even that being the impetus then for you to focus. That's your time, right? That's it.
Well,
That's the planning time.
that's it, exactly.
So thank you again. Thank you to everybody online. Let me just, I'll stop sharing my screen, but I'm just going to pop into that. Let me just copy this for you and pop this into the chat. For those who have, I don't know if that's going to work. I'll email out that to everybody to see if anybody missed the feedback. I'll send that out. But thank you.
Excellent.
Great session. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Lee.
No worries, thank you.
Good weekend, everybody.
Work,